Hello and welcome to another episode of Tumorously Yours. Sorry, we have been missing for a bit because both Adnan and I were getting married in November and December, respectively. And so we have been MIA, but the stories are never MIA. And we have another one that is very, very inspiring. And I can guarantee you will also bring a smile to your face when you finish listening to the story today. So today we have with us Raghav Ramaiah, a friend of mine who I met at a wedding years ago, and we've managed to stay in touch a little bit on and off. And then I heard his story about his wife, and I really, really felt that this is something that if he's willing to speak about, must be out there. And he has graciously said yes. So in 2023, Raghav lost the love of his life, his wife Neetu, to cancer. And today he's going to tell us about it. But also, Raghav, I'm extremely grateful to you because also this is never an easy topic to speak about.
Sure, Tamanna. Thank you so much for having me here. It's really great stuff that you're doing with this particular series. I think a lot. I think it's going to help a lot of people going through the disease itself, but also the people around the people going through the disease. I think it takes a toll on them as well. So I think this series could really help a lot of folks sort of. I won't say figure things out, but at least know that it's something that a lot of them have gone through as well.
Yeah, and never an easy journey, but at least when you know that there are other people going through something similar or something it just gives you a little bit more strength to deal. Okay, so Raghav, to set context for everybody who's going to be listening to this, tell us a little bit about yourself, about Neetu, what cancer she had, when she got diagnosed, what stage was it, how she got diagnosed, and also like how long was her fight with cancer.
Right. I mean, I'm from Bangalore. Neetu was also from Bangalore. We met at the same workplace while we were working at Yahoo in 2009. We started dating a few months after and got married in 2014. So with her diagnosis, it happened during 2021, the July of 2021. She started with having casual stomach issues or gastric issues that one might have. Obviously, we took a lot of home medications in the beginning for the first couple of weeks. That's, I guess, we all do that, and it didn't seem to subside. And that's when we sort of saw a general physician and who put her on some medicines and said like, just see me after a couple of weeks. And like it had been now 3 or 4 weeks, and it had still not sort of sorted for her. I mean, it wasn't too bad. There was no pain. There was nothing. It was just like discomfort. When we saw the general physician again after a couple of weeks, just to rule out anything, let's get a abdomen ultrasound to just see what's going on. The word cancer itself was only heard of, and we only heard of people having it, and it's only like you always known of people like, okay, I know my friend's mom had it, or it was just that we'd never had any. So Neetu was seeing a gynac there at a hospital because we were trying to sort of conceive during that year, and we were just sort of having that conversation. She was seeing a gynac that year multiple times, so she went there and she got her ultrasound done. So there, I think the guys who sort of take care of the ultrasound, and they seem a little alarmed, and usually the reports are usually collected at the reception, and they made it like a sort of a slightly biggish deal while she was inside, and they gave it to her. They said, you must like quickly go see somebody, and while she was waiting, while the payment was done and all of that, she's obviously read parts of it, metastasis and like all of these words, that she's obviously googled it while she was sitting there. And she sat in the car, and she started like weeping and like really crying. She said something doesn't look right. So at that point, we didn't know what metastasis means, and if it's a benign. I was like, you're overthinking it. Obviously, Google will try to say the same thing that you're trying to sort of like implying in your head. I sort of calmed her down. Neetu doesn't have a mom. She has a father. She lost her mother to multiple sclerosis in 2018. So like literally, it's her father that's sort of like, apart from me, that's the other guardian in the sense that she looks up to and sort of wanted. And obviously I told him, uncle, this is the case. I'm not sure what it could be. And he turned around and said, what if it is not, and what if it is cancer? Because he'd seen like a couple of decades of taking care of his ailing mother. So he was like, okay, if that's the case, we'll have to take care of it. And suddenly all our moods changed, and we were like, okay, we'll figure this out, we'll fight it out together. Yeah, I think from then we went on, saw gastro, and the gastro guy confirmed there's a tumor in the stomach and it has metastasized from the liver. At that stage, we're pretty clueless. We don't know what is stage 1, what is stage 2, what is stage 4. That's when they said anything that's metastasized is stage 4. It's because it's not operable, and you'll have to, I mean, medically sort of go through chemotherapy sessions and see how we can sort of deal from there. Yeah, and then we just then ran over the place, seeing different oncologists in Bangalore, getting opinion. I think that's where it all started in the July, August of 2021. And I think she fought it till about April 2023. She couldn't even like get through the second year of what was going on. So lost her on the April 16th of 2023.
I have a follow-up question. You told us about how she responded. You also told us about how her dad responded to some extent, little bit. How did you feel?
In the beginning, like at every test and every CT scan and every all of that, we wished it wasn't true. Like in the sense that maybe it's not as bad as the doctors are telling us. And then you only associate cancer to death in your heads because you've seen it in movies, you've heard it from people, and people getting cured is not something that you've heard of, at least in popular conversation. So I went into a huge sort of like, I mean, it happens to all of us, I guess. We go into a self-loathing phase. We're like, oh shit, what has happened to me? Obviously my wife was going through, but you also sort of question your whole life, right? Like, what just happened to my life? Everything was all right, and sort of like side drinking, all of that. But while all of this was happening, because the next day we had to go see oncologists and we had to do all of this, there was work to be done, and I understood there has to be, like, it has to be me who has to understand what's going on, what's the medication doctors are giving us, what the opinions, like how much are the opinions changing from one oncologist to another oncologist, and how much, like, what are the chances, and how are these people dealing with. And I had to like sort of immediately sort of educate myself on what was going on. And that I think for me was the most difficult part of the whole of these things, is because Google can't tell you anything. And obviously each of these oncologists will tell you a different way of how they're going to deal with this particular cancer. And it took me a fair while to also realize that there is no one particular way to treat cancer, which we didn't know what the right way to deal with it was. And I'm going to mention it if people are out there sort of seeking alternate medicines. We did too in the first month. Right when we started and we had this conversation, went to oncologist and we sat down with her father to have this discussion on where to go, how to go about this. So we did that for a month. And then within the last 10 days of those 30 days of those 4 weeks, her pain sort of like really increased, and it wasn't the same after that. Like, I've seen her like in the nights crying out, like her dad is holding her hand on one side, my mom is holding her hand on the other end, and she's not able to take it through the night, and she's sweating. Like, I don't know, that's something that we saw at that point. And then at the end of that month, I sort of had to put my foot. I said, guys, listen, not happening. Let's go for chemotherapy and let's see how it goes. And we sort of enrolled her to a hospital here in Bangalore, and one of the finest, I think we took her there. It's a hospital called Site Care. And immediately when we put her on chemotherapy, and within just a couple of days or within 24 hours, she was feeling a lot better. And suddenly you start to look up, because if she's able to eat better and if she has no pain, I think you won most of that day's battle, really. I'm sure a lot of people do this. They will sort of go for alternate medicine. So this was what we did.
There's one solution anyway. Like, anyway, everybody uses their own solution. Whatever works for you works for you. I don't think you can't be like, okay, this is the only route you can take for anyone.
Correct. Yeah, and that process of now these technical terms of these chemo medicines and how they're administered and how long does it take, what are the pre-medications to the chemotherapy, all of that I had to be on top of those things. Because see, I can't really blame the doctors. I'm sure a lot of people going through this should have heard this directly from some certain oncologist. They'll really say, there's no cure, she'll not make it. She doesn't have much time. But I know we want to hear the truth at most times, but sometimes you want it to be a little more comforting, a little more quoted to suit us during those initial phases of where we are with the treatment, right? And those chemos lasted for a week. It was not a day, it was not half a day. It was 5 nights, 6 days at the hospital. I mean, again, it might sound like I'm self-loathing, but I still remember looking out of the hospital window in the night. I'm like, oh shit, like everything was fine like a couple of months ago. How drastic and how sudden things can be in life. And from that, because she was feeling better, all of us sort of like were fairly a little, because those 5 days she was feeling better. When she came back home, she was eating, she was able to step out, meet her friends, have coffee.
But I want to ask you, when this was happening and you said you had to do so much like reading up, right? Because you had to understand it that was being done. There is one part where you have to be like extremely logical about it. Okay, now this, I need to know this, I need to understand it, I need to make sure that I need to make the right decision, at least how much ever I can. That is one part. And then there is one part where this is the love of your life suffering every day, even if she's getting slightly better. It's not easy to see her go through this pain, especially because whatever I have seen of her and heard of her from you, I can see that she was like the life of a party, and that energy is lower. How were you dealing with it emotionally?
I think initially the first 1 month was obviously meeting because the rest of the time was taking. I mean, you had to be at home, be with her. But I used to step out once a week to at least be able to talk to somebody about it,
Yeah.
and a few friends that sort of who are really close that helped me as a first level of conversation that
Hmm.
I could have.
Yeah.
And the second level was obviously her, like sitting down and talking to her. That really gave me confidence,
Hmm.
talking to her about the process and about what she's going through.
Yeah.
Because when she sort of gave such a fight and she was looking up, there was no other option for us to sort of do this any other way. And especially like you might know of it quite well is about how a woman feels losing her hair slowly, like when the hair starts to fall.
Yeah. Yeah.
Talking to her really gave me the courage to sort of look up and sort of deal with this in a more positive sense than sort of whine and sometimes she used to, I mean, she's not probably not believe it entirely, but she also used to say, why not me? Maybe like it's way of making me stronger. Let's
Hmm.
look at it in that way. Yeah, I mean, maybe she probably believed it 10%, but she had to put it out there for herself and for us
Yeah.
to sort of believe that okay, we can make it out of this.
Yeah. No, and I think that's necessary also because hope at least keeps you going through everything that you're going through. I mean, till you go through it, if you give up earlier, you're not even like going to be able to go through what you're going through, right?
Correct.
And did you have like a coping mechanism or a way that maybe like you took a break or something that made you feel slightly saner on days that got too heavy?
I mean, obviously, I'd stopped work, actively sort of seeking, and since I am in the media industry, I like run a small time production house. I'm a photographer, run like makes corporate films and all of that. So I like most of these things happen on meetings and physical like sort of
Yeah.
meetups and that kind of thing. So I really had to put a stop to all of that. And on top of that, we're also dealing with the second pandemic, sort of just second wave, sort of just finishing during that time. So we had to be
Hmm.
even doubly careful where I'm meeting, whom I'm
Yeah.
meeting, like so that I had to
Hmm.
be extremely careful of. Even if I'm like stepping out, I had to come take bath and put those clothes for wash, so that there
Yeah.
is nothing that's going to sort of affect her more going through. I mean, I obviously considered therapy as well. A lot of people told us both for both of us, but at that time we didn't actively do it. I think it really changes the way you look at yourself and the things around you. I
Yeah.
didn't. So what happens is after those one or two chemotherapies, and when she started to look and do fairly better, sleep better, and so you think, oh, you've got this. We found the right doctor, we found the right hospital, we found the right medicines. It's only during the third chemotherapy, during her third or fourth day, I was at the hospital and she suddenly went into a seizure. It was early in the morning, and like I don't know how many people would have actually seen a person going through a seizure in front of their eyes, and you are the only person around them at that point. I'm not sure how many people would have done that, but to see her exactly like early in the morning at around 7 in the morning, and I'm just waking up and I'm just see her going to a seizure. That was probably the worst. Like that is when it really hit me really bad, because oh shit, you don't know. I mean, a person sort of loses conscious and you don't know. And that sort of carried. I mean, then the nurses came and she was okay, and she doesn't remember. She didn't remember those 10 minutes, and that scarred me for about 6 months from then. Is if I'm in the workroom and like she's down in our bedroom, and if I have to like suddenly if I think of her, I'm like, oh shit, I didn't check on her. I don't know what happened with her the last 15 minutes. So that
Yeah.
constant fear started to like to be in the back of my head. Like suddenly I'll call and just call out to her, and she says, okay, hey, what's up? Then I'm like, okay, it's fine. So that sort of really scarred me during that. And then like slowly you start to think, okay, it's not as smooth ride that I thought it would be. And also, Tamanna, the thing is, you don't have much time to really cope in that sense.
Yeah.
Because there's so much to learn and to educate and to do those calls, and somebody tells these medications and this pharma company, and you can talk to them directly and you email them, and on top of that, about the catheter, right? Like that had to be, we had to go get the dressing done every week, so that's a reminder that you're doing a weekly. No, not a port. She was on the catheter on her hand, like going for dressings every week and then meeting your oncologist. And what does a lower creatine level mean? What are the liver values, the SGPT, SGOT, and the GGT actually mean on a LFT report? And it's suddenly a whole lot of learning. So for me, more than coping, I think because the both of us were together mostly all the time, I was okay. I was seeing my friends, having a drink once a week, so that fairly helped me. But for me, the most of the time was just this, and then emailing my friend in the US and seeing if they think of this medicine otherwise, if there is any other options, and to be able to take the right call for her.
You remember so many details, right? Like the way you're recollecting the acronyms and everything. Like now, in retrospect, right? Like it was a traumatic situation, and in trauma, you remember these details, right? So now, looking back, what advice would you give people who are like feeling scared of taking therapy in this moment?
I think I'll 100% advocate for it in the sense that I went to therapy later once Neetu had moved on. But then I understood why people do therapy in the first place. I think a lot of people do not talk to a lot of people about their situation and what they're going on. I think eight out of 10 people don't do it. It's not easy to be seeing your loved one like that. I didn't, but I would really highly recommend, because it just puts things in a different perspective for you, just takes you away from where you are, and sort of at the end you'll be able to handle the same things a far more emotionally better. Take those decisions that you think were tougher, and have those conversations that you thought were tougher. Because I was very edgy with my oncologist. Like that is something that's where I think I could have been. I'm like, I'll be ready to snap back, and I'm like, okay, aaj jaake, like I'll just say this back to him. I mean, now when I look back, I was like, oh shit, not a good idea. Of when you're already going through so much, you can't be having another range of emotions that is not required. I highly suggest anyone and everyone to sort of really, even just a session, if that could be, if your resources sort of can help you do that.
No, but even after, like, I'm really proud of you for finding that courage inside you to be like, okay, she's moved on, but I need to do this therapy for myself to feel slightly better. Because there are multiple routes people take. You become bitter, but you're not. And you chose that way for yourself. As horrible as it is that she's not here, but she wouldn't want to see you suffer for the rest of the time that you are there in this world. I want to change direction slightly. I want to ask you to tell us a little bit more about her. Just tell us a little bit about her when you would go out. How was she around her friends? How was she around her family? Just because I want people to know the kind of person that she was.
I think initially, we both were highly opinionated, extremely straightforward people. So that used to get us into a lot of fights, like in our dating times, and even like earlier, the first few years of marriage as well. Like one has to be, I will not say submissive, but one has to be like, okay, ठीक है, ये आदमी थोड़ा ऐसा ही है. So, but we were not like, तू ऐसा कैसे है? So it used to be like that. The initial, we used to be like up late all the time. I mean, we just loved it, sleeping at 2:33, 3:34. I don't know. Sometimes chit chatting, sometimes watching shows, but on our separate devices, because one could not keep up with the other all the time when we used to sort of the things. But I think she loved a couple of drinks and have a good time. A life of every party, and I think a lot of my friends will sort of agree. It changed now. It's not the same anymore when the same gang of friends of 10, 12 when we hang out. It's not the same. To get people to dance or get people to go a little like crazy and like all of that, she could do that. And people used to feel, I don't know, when she used to do it, all these introverted and like not so people like everybody used to sort of have fun. And one thing that was amazing about her, so when we sort of tried dating, she didn't have a lot of friends. She had a few, like handful of 3-4 friends, and I think some people are like that, I guess. I don't know. And she was surprised when like she met me and she saw like I had like 10, 15 of, like, she's like, how can you have 15 close friends? Like that's rubbish. Like you can't have 15 close friends.
My husband says that about me.
Yeah, so then I think over the years, half of them became extremely loyal to her. Then like there used to be only calls to her and they used to go out. I'm like, bro, like I'm at home, like at least check with me if I'm coming or not, right? Like, and she had her own gang of my friends.
So sweet.
And I was really happy for that. Yeah, I think one of the things that I miss is miss a great friend. Like not the wife, it's not anything else. I think just miss a great friend. Maybe now I'm a little more, I find comfort in talking about her. Before it used to be way harder. And she was like, I mean, we both were foodies. We used to like, imagine not drinking and eating food for 5,000, 6,000 bucks. I'm like, how? Like, this is just obnoxious. Like, it can't be, just the both of us can't be eating so much food. So her love for food and my love for food is something that we both used to, these joints in Bangalore, so where we used to frequent, just the two of us.
I love how you talk about her. I really do. It's very sweet.
Yeah, I mean, like she was
Yeah,
so.
yeah, it is so sweet.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, like simple stuff, right? Like I'd stopped buying clothes for myself because she used to go shop. She knew my size, and yeah, then you realize, oh shit, like now you got to do it, go do it yourself, and you don't know where to go, which place to buy, and like,
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't know you'd ask this, but I mean, some people might be thinking, oh, itna hi bola hai kya? Like this isn't any more lovey-dovey stuff or whatever. But I don't know. This
No,
is
no, I don't. No, Raghav. I feel like there's no right way to express love. Every way is right. So this is your way, and it's beautiful. And I personally loved how you spoke about
she'll be like, dude, you didn't tell that about me. Like, remember that
that
great
she could be
character?
doing.
Yeah, yeah,
That
that's what I'm saying.
he can be looking down and be like, "Hey, you could have said this
She's
also."
definitely doing that right now. She
Yeah.
is.
Yeah, that I can agree because I would do it as well. I'd be like, hey, but why would you say this? Next thing I want to ask you is something I'm going to hate asking you. You can say I don't want to answer, and I'm going to just then move on from it. But I want to know, do you remember the last few weeks before she passed? And like, was it very sudden or did it happen like, gradually? Do you know? And how was she kind of dealing with what was going on with her? How were you dealing with it? Do you remember like the day she passed?
Yeah, I think I remember I think the time when she started to slowly. I won't say she never really gave up, but she started to lose faith a little bit through that process was around October, November 2022. It's always you take one step forward and two step backward. Like that's what was happening with the treatment. We used to be cheerful sometimes, and then we would be like, "Oh shit, we got to change medications, do the whole jing bang again, and finding out and talking to people." And so I think in November it had metastasized to the brain a little bit. Yeah, so she's not going to radiotherapy, and then I could see her slowly not be herself a little bit from then. She used to now not be okay with people coming home and seeing her. And one thing that I think I mean, like it's great if you're having a family like that, if you're able to put the person who's going through that and their priorities as your first and not your relatives who wants to come see you, your first relative, your second, and that happens, and it can be very stressful to certain people. I'm not saying block out the entire set of relatives altogether, but you don't want people to come feel sorry for you and say the wrong things, and that is something that the person
Yeah.
going through to even get a sense, even of 1% of what probably they are sort of inferring, and that is not good for the fight they're putting up. So at least my supportive parents really blocked out everybody, both sides of the family, till she said, okay, this person can come see me, and then only. Going back to your question, so November it started, and we got through those the radiotherapy treatment for about 5-6 sessions, and then the doctor said, yeah, I think she's a little better now. And then we planned our trip to, my sister lives in Abu Dhabi. I have a nephew, his name is UV, and Neetu absolutely loved him. It was his 8th birthday. So I said, okay, it's a good time, good reason for, and it'll be a good break for her. And so doctor is like, okay, no problem, we will do one thing, we'll just get the catheter removed, so don't go do dressing runs there. Okay, I said, are you sure like she can be off medications for a month? He's like, no, it's absolutely all right, you can go ahead. I mean, we must have read between the lines there when he sort of said he was saying that, but we didn't. I definitely didn't want to. Maybe I think that's how I'll put it, that some things, how much ever logically things are in front of you, you don't want to believe it, and you don't want
Yeah.
to even go in that line of thought or entertain that thought too much. I think she was good for the first 15 days. The next 15 days was pretty awful. She had started periodic pains, discomfort, not able to eat food. And like I remember, again, like both of us went by, now coming back, it was different. She was lying down on my lap, and the whole energy was very different. And within a week, we'd had to go put her in the emergency because her pain had again increased. And unfortunately, I guess universe does these things, if you want to like say it out like that. Suddenly I had a rush of assignments that I had got, and I'd suddenly gotten busy. I imagine I had nothing till December. I had probably not looked up enough, but suddenly I had 3 weddings that I was shooting between about 25 days. Then I was shooting for another brand for a product shoot where I had to be at the factory that was outside Bangalore for about 2 hours. Then I had to be there, stay there, and shoot. And so suddenly, like it became a little off for me that I was there for so much time with her all the time. And now,
Yeah.
while she's going through these ups and downs, I was like little on and off, because financially
Yeah.
you needed as much sort of support that one
Yeah,
could be.
correct.
I think I was at home because I had an early shoot day that day, and she was at the hospital. Dad was there, and she was texting me. Once you start dating, and once you're probably married, stop texting, right? Like you don't text anymore. You probably it's easier to just pick up the phone and talk. So you don't
Yeah.
text each other. So that night we were texting, and that was extremely special when I look back. I told her sorry if I've not been the kind of husband that I could have been. And she's like, no, but I was the best wife. I don't know about you, but I was the best. I mean, that was such a soulful sort of chat that we had. Ended in end of Jan, beginning of Feb. I went to the doctor and he gave me this form. He said, "This is the form that you sign. If that, in case she goes in, if her situation gets better, we will not put her on emergency or ventilator care." And that's when it truly hit me. I'm like, okay, now I think we're looking down. And it's only later I think I saw on her phone she had started writing since March first week of how she was feeling every alternate day. And when I read that, I was like again, there's bloating today, a lot of pain, not able to eat. She's journaled a few stuff during that time. And I think towards the end of March is when I think this liquid starts to accumulate around the organs when your liver is not sort of functioning right. And now because of that, there is a lot more bloating than there was. I think on the April 6th morning, we woke up. She was okay. She was just talking, and suddenly she went to a seizure again. That had happened during that time. She went to a seizure again, and that I think that really scared her. I think that's when she really gave up the fight. She's like, okay. I think that was the day. April 6th was the day. And the next day we had to go in for another session, and that day she was like really hugging me and crying, Raghav, I don't want to go. Like we're standing at the lobby, and they're just waiting to take her inside for a session. And I'm like, Nitu, it's okay. Like, you'll get better. I think you should go. And I remember she cried and walked in. She came back, but that after that, I didn't think she could sleep. I remember through the night, I used to go put her to sleep, and then I had some work to finish. So our bedroom is on the first floor, my workroom is on the second floor. So I used to come on top, and she used to call me again. After 5 minutes, she's fallen asleep again, like because of that seizure. No, it really scared her. So we
Right.
did that through the night, putting her to sleep, and then I used to come on top and again go back. So both of us hadn't slept. So early in the morning, she woke up at 11. She had a lot of pain. She didn't want to wake me up. She called my friend who sent a driver, and with my mom, she went to the hospital. She went to see a pain doctor, and then from there, they went to the hospital, went into the emergency. And we've done this emergency pain care a couple of times before. So I was like, okay, it's another one. And I woke up at around, and me and my dad sort of left to the hospital. I didn't know it would be the last time. Should not be coming home after this. So yeah, she was in a couple of days at the hospital, and suddenly after a couple of days, her sodium and potassium levels start getting wavered quite a bit. After the second day at the hospital, when she started to get little slightly disoriented, like that was probably the worst thing to sort of go through, because all the things I said about you and this strong person and all of that, and suddenly you're now dealing with the person. Now she's seeing through you while she's like looking at you, and her losing her, like for me, that is another thing that never goes off my head, is when she got disoriented slightly, and that only started to get worse. I remember the day, and when I started feeding her, she's not able to consciously open her mouth, and she's seeing me, and I'm crying while I'm feeding her. She made a face. She's not like a sad face. She's like, she couldn't. That's the only way that she could express that. And that's when the doctor said, okay, we're not going into cancer treatment anymore. And that's it. I think that was a Monday on the 10th of April is when I last saw her conscious. Because on the 11th morning, they had given her enough pain medications so that she doesn't wake up, because if she wakes up, she's going to be in a lot of pain. Yeah. So from the 11th till the 16th is when she passed on the April 16th. I was okay. I'm not okay, but I was of the thing that okay, I think it's about time that we let her go. I mean, you can see deaths and you can see all of that, and something happens that in your own bedroom at this age and like whatever. I'm not saying this is the hardest, but for me to even sort of come
Yeah,
down with.
I'm really sorry that you had to go through this. She had to go through this. But you said you didn't go in the room now for a while.
Yeah. I mean, I could not sleep inside the same bedroom for a year. It's only after a year of her, or probably a little later, is when I started going back and sleeping. I still have, just before sleeping, if I go in that thought and like start thinking of it a little bit and then block the thought, gone. I can't sleep. But I think one thing that really helped me towards the end of 2023 was look down, and you seem to be in a dark place, and that's when I got a coach for myself, and I started working out and cut down on the alcohol. And I think that really sort of changed how my 2024 was. those 3 months of really working on myself. At least you see some light at the end of the tunnel for yourself. We'll be able to, I guess, manage this.
There is, and she lives on in all our memories through this podcast and so many more people's memories.
Yeah,
And
I mean, which is why I was happy to do this with you guys. I mean, I still probably question it on my down days. Is why? I mean, like because nothing makes sense.
yeah,
I guess not everybody is dealt the same cards in life, so I guess that's the only way I sort of come in terms with it.
I want to ask you, you would have taken some time and then gotten back to work after Neetu passed. And your work itself is of photographing people's love stories and making, their like big wedding day look,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
make them remember these memories and all of that. And it's beautiful when you think of it in isolation. But when I think of it for you, I feel like connecting it after losing a partner yourself. How did you deal with that?
Yes, I think this is something that I've had like a huge internal fight with, even while she was going through the fight. Because when you're there, and there are moments where you're standing still and just watching and not really shooting, right? And that's when it
Yeah.
suddenly hits you like, oh shit! Even I got married. I had like similar. There's such a happy
Mm.
thing, and now
Yeah.
this is this thing I'm dealing with. And then when you're shooting, telling couples to pose and telling them, having
Yeah.
conversations about life, about wedding and everything, and then I and in some situations probably I didn't sort of open up. The client didn't know I had lost my partner, so I don't know. Like you cannot be 100%. Like I don't know when, how much time I'm going to take to be that person again. But a part of you sort of like still there's a void that can't. I know it's really difficult. Like especially weddings, right? Like it's really
Yeah.
difficult. Uh, and this constant thought like you're there in this extravaganza of everything that's happening, and there's opulence and everything, and you have this guy, and like you lost, it's a few months since you lost your wife to cancer. I'm like, shit, nobody knows what I've gone through, right? Like this is just,
Yeah.
you suddenly feel like just a small thing in such a huge arena of what was happening, and so much laughter and
Yeah.
happiness and everything. And then you, I mean, naturally start to question. I don't think I've still been able to come out or be absolutely nice with when I'm put in such situations. I still struggle a fair bit to be myself.
Yeah, I mean
It's
that's what I was wondering, because when you're getting married, you're planning your future, you're thinking, oh my God, I'm going to live the rest of my life with this person, blah blah. And then here you are recording this large set of dreams that these two people are just making with each other, unknown to the fact that life may deal any cards in the next, like you would have done the same thing, and you don't know, like life, you didn't know life would deal you these cards, and can't be easy. Okay, last question.
yes.
If you could give a message to someone who's lost a loving partner, what would that be?
I mean, we got to live through this life to tell tales about her. Then that's it. That's one of the reasons I think is reason enough for us to make our life as better that we can be. Because और कोई नहीं बोलेगा. Like there's nobody who can tell the tales about your partner like you would. And I read it somewhere recently. When you get married, you're just marrying a person to witness your life, and that's really resonated with me. And it makes sense now a whole lot more, is because I've seen I have seen the most of her and her adult life, how happy, how sad, and what made her cheer up. And we have to sort of bring ourselves to a state where we are happy to talk about her and tell her tales to the people around us till the time we die. I think that is a huge reason enough, I think, for one to look up. I won't say hang in there. I guess you already, I guess one already is, because life has put you there, so you are anyway sort of are in that state.
Thank you so much. So much for
Thank
doing
you so
this.
much, Raghav.
I just hope if it's going to help a couple of people, I'd be more than happy with it today. And thank you guys for doing this for the community. It really means a lot. I don't know about the light at the end of the tunnel, but you can carry your own light. Is what I'd say is wherever you are, carry your own light.